The massive alien fleet darkened Earth's orbit like a swarm of metal locusts. Their ships, angular and threatening, cast long shadows over the cities below. Admiral Vale stood on the bridge of his command vessel, his forearms crossed behind his back, as he stared at the blue planet through the viewing screen. "These humans," he growled, his voice resonating through the command center. "They don't seem to understand the gravity of their situation." His second-in-command, Officer Reed, approached with a datapad. "Sir, we've been monitoring their communications. Their response to our arrival is unusual," Reed reported, his antenna twitching nervously. "They don't appear to be panicking." Admiral Vale's eyes narrowed. Every species they had encountered before had reacted with proper terror when faced with the might of the Stellar Dominion's fleet. But these humans, they seemed almost casual about the whole thing. The main screen flickered to life, showing Earth's United Defense Council. 5 humans sat at a simple wooden table, wearing what appeared to be everyday clothing rather than military uniforms. This itself was an insult to Vale's sensibilities. "Greetings, Admiral," said the middle-aged man at the center, identified as General Tom Walker. He was wearing what humans called a sweater, and had a steaming cup of something on the table before him. "Would you like to discuss this situation over coffee?" Vale's upper lip curled in disgust. "You dare to treat this as a social call? Your planet is surrounded. Your defenses are nothing compared to our fleet. Surrender now, or face complete annihilation." General Walker took a sip from his cup. "Well, that's rather dramatic, isn't it?" He turned to a woman beside him. "Linda, would you mind getting the files about our previous first contact protocols? I think our friends here might find them interesting." The casual nature of their interaction made Vale's blood boil. He slammed all 4 fists onto his command console. "You mock us? Perhaps a demonstration is in order." He signaled to his weapons officer, "Target their largest military installation." The weapons officer complied, and a massive energy beam struck a desert facility in what humans called Nevada. When the dust settled, the building remained completely intact, protected by some kind of energy shield they hadn't detected before. "Oh, that old place," Walker said, still unnervingly calm. "We've had shield technology for quite a while now. Would you like to try something else?" Vale's antenna went rigid with shock. Their scans had shown human technology to be far inferior to their own. How had they missed this? "Sir," Reed whispered, "our deep scans are showing something strange. Their technology, it's not primitive. They've just been hiding it somehow." "Impossible," Vale hissed, but the evidence was right in front of him. The humans had somehow masked their true technological level, making their civilization appear far less advanced than it actually was. General Walker leaned forward, his expression finally turning serious. "Admiral Vale, we've been watching your empire's expansion for some time now. We chose not to make contact earlier because, frankly, we wanted to see how you'd handle things. So far, we're not impressed." The bridge fell silent. Vale's crew looked at each other nervously. Their entire invasion strategy had been based on the assumption of technological superiority. "You're bluffing," Vale said, but his voice lacked conviction. Walker smiled. "Would you like a small demonstration of what we can actually do? Linda, if you would." Suddenly, every weapon system on Vale's entire fleet powered down simultaneously. Their engines remained functional, but their offensive capabilities had been completely neutralized. "Now then," Walker said, pulling out what looked like an ancient paper notebook and a writing implement, "shall we discuss terms for a more peaceful relationship between our peoples? I find traditional pen and paper adds a nice touch to diplomatic negotiations." Vale stared at his useless weapon controls, then at the humans who had so completely outmaneuvered him. His entire career, his strategy, his understanding of the galaxy, all of it had been turned upside down in less than an hour. Vale swallowed his pride. "We are willing to discuss terms." "Excellent," Walker beamed. "And don't worry too much about the rough start. You're not the first to underestimate us, And you probably won't be the last. Now, about that coffee. Vale realized that this first contact had indeed gone wrong, just not in the way he had expected. It had gone wrong for him, not the humans. And somehow, judging by their expressions, they had known it would end this way all along. Admiral Vale paced the bridge of his command ship, his claws clicking against the metal floor. The diplomatic meeting had been humiliating, but he still had one card left to play. His secret weapon, the one thing that even advanced human technology might not be able to counter. "Sir," Officer Reed approached cautiously. "Are you certain about this?" After their display of power, Vale turned sharply. "They may have advanced technology, but they're still soft creatures. They haven't faced anything like what we're about to unleash." He pressed a button on his command console. "Connect me to their defense council." The screen flickered to life, showing General Walker still sitting comfortably with his coffee. "Ah, Admiral Vale. Have you considered our peace proposal?" "I have a counter-proposal." Vale's mandibles clicked in what his species considered a smile. "We've been developing something special. A biological weapon unlike anything your species has encountered." Walker raised an eyebrow, taking another sip of coffee. "Oh, do tell." "We've created the perfect predator," Vale announced proudly. "A beast engineered from the most aggressive genetic samples we found across 12 galaxies. It can track prey across vast distances, has enhanced strength, and possesses intelligence far beyond normal animals." The human council members exchanged glances. Linda, the woman from before, appeared to be hiding a smile behind her hand. "This creature," Vale continued, "has already decimated the defenses of 3 other worlds. No technological advancement could save them. Even your impressive shields won't help against a biological threat." Walker leaned back in his chair, looking almost amused. "And you're telling us this because..." "Because I'm giving you one last chance to surrender," Vale declared. "Otherwise, we'll release these beasts onto your planet. They're specifically designed to hunt humanoid species." To Vale's growing frustration, several members of the Earth Council were now clearly struggling not to laugh. Walker cleared his throat, maintaining his composure better than his colleagues. "Admiral," Walker said, "would you be willing to give us a demonstration of this ultimate weapon of yours? In a controlled environment, of course." Vale's antenna twitched in surprise. This wasn't the reaction he had expected. "You want to see it?" "Of course," Walker replied. "We should really understand what we're up against, shouldn't we? We have a secure facility where you could safely demonstrate your creature's capabilities." Officer Reed leaned close to Vale. "Sir, this could be a trap." Vale waved him off. "They've already shown they could disable our weapons. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done so." He turned back to the screen. "Very well. We accept your proposal for a demonstration." "Excellent," Walker said. "We'll send you coordinates for a testing facility. Shall we say in 2 hours?" Vale nodded stiffly. After the transmission ended, he immediately ordered the preparation of their most aggressive specimen. The humans might have superior technology, but they had never faced anything like this before. In the containment area, Vale personally inspected the holding cell. The creature inside was massive, with enhanced muscles, reinforced bone structure, and heightened senses. Its dark fur bristled with artificial sensors, and its eyes glowed with artificial intelligence augments. "Sir," the chief geneticist approached, holding a data pad. "There's something odd in the latest DNA analysis. Some of the base genetic material we used, we can't quite identify its origin." "Is it still combat ready?" Vale asked. "Oh yes, definitely. It's our most successful specimen. It's just, there's something familiar about its genetic structure that we can't quite place." Vale dismissed the concern. This was his last chance to assert dominance over these surprisingly advanced humans. The beast was their ultimate achievement in biological warfare, the perfect blend of nature and genetic engineering. As they prepared for transport to the testing facility, Vale couldn't shake the feeling that the humans' reaction had been strange. They should have been terrified, or at least concerned. Instead, they seemed almost eager to meet his weapon. Perhaps, he muttered to himself, they simply don't understand what they're about to face. But even as he said it, he remembered how wrong his previous assumptions about humans had been. The creature in its cage growled, and Vale felt a chill run down his spine. Whether it was from anticipation or apprehension, he couldn't quite tell. The testing facility turned out to be a large open field surrounded by transparent barriers. Admiral Vale stood in the observation room alongside General Walker and several other human officials. The sky was clear, and a gentle breeze rustled through the grass below. Your containment protocols seem minimal, Vale observed, noting the lack of heavy weapons or emergency defenses. Walker shrugged. We find simple solutions often work best. Now, who will you be sending in to handle your weapon? Handle it. Vale laughed. No one handles this creature. We simply release it and point it toward its target. He gestured to Officer Reed, who began inputting commands into a control pad. The humans exchanged more of those mysterious looks that Vale was beginning to hate. Walker pressed a button on his console. Joe, you ready down there? A man's voice crackled through the speaker. Ready when you are, sir. Just hanging out in the field. Vale's eyes widened. You're sending someone out there? Unarmed. Of course, Walker replied. How else would we test its capabilities? Joe has experience with this sort of thing. In the field below, a human male in simple clothes stood casually, hands in his pockets. He wore no armor, carried no weapons, and seemed completely unconcerned about his situation. Vale shook his head in disbelief. Your species' overconfidence will be your downfall. Release the beast. A large container descended from Vale's ship, landing at the far end of the field. With a hiss of hydraulics, the doors began to open. Inside, glowing eyes reflected the sunlight as the creature emerged. It was magnificent, even Vale had to admit. Standing nearly as tall as a human at the shoulder, its enhanced muscles rippled under thick, dark fur. Sensor nodes along its spine gathered environmental data, while its augmented brain processed combat strategies far beyond any natural animal. The beast stepped forward, its claws leaving deep marks in the earth. Its head lowered, and enhanced olfactory sensors picked up the human scent. Fascinating design, one of the human scientists remarked, making notes. The basic structure seems familiar, though. Joe, the human in the field, had finally stopped looking so relaxed. He was staring intently at the creature, but still hadn't moved to run or defend himself. Your man seems frozen in fear, Vale said smugly. Perhaps we should end this before. Oh my God. Joe's voice came through the speaker, but he didn't sound afraid. He sounded delighted. Look at those ears, those paws. It's like a giant puppy. Vale's antenna went rigid. What did he say? Before anyone could respond, Joe did something that made every alien in the room gasp in horror. He crouched down, patted his legs, and called out in a high-pitched, cheerful voice. Here, boy. Come here. Who's a good boy? The beast's response was not what Vale had expected. Its ears, designed for detecting prey movement, perked up. Its tail, meant to aid in balance during high-speed pursuit, began to move side to side. No, Vale whispered. That's impossible. It's programmed for aggression. It's designed to. The creature bounded across the field, but not in the savage attack Vale had anticipated. Instead, it ran with the unmistakable enthusiasm of an excited dog, tongue lolling out of its mouth. Joe stood his ground, arms open. The beast, their ultimate weapon, slammed into him with enough force to knock him down, then proceeded to lick his face. Oh, you're just a big sweetheart, aren't you? Joe laughed, scratching behind the creature's ears. The beast's tail was now wagging so hard its whole body shook. In the observation room, Walker turned to Vale with a sympathetic smile. Admiral, I believe we've identified that mysterious genetic material your scientists couldn't place. You see, about 30,000 years ago, humans began a project of our own, domesticating wolves into dogs. Vale watched in stunned silence as his ultimate weapon rolled over for a belly rub. Somehow, Walker continued, you must have acquired some ancient canine DNA in your sampling, and despite all your modifications, you couldn't quite breed out 30,000 years of loving humans. Joe had produced a tennis ball from his pocket, and the beast, now clearly just a very large, very enhanced dog, was watching it with joyful anticipation. Vale's ultimate weapon, it seemed, just wanted to play fetch. Admiral Vale collapsed into a chair in the observation room, all four hands covering his face as he watched his ultimate weapon chase a tennis ball across the field. Joe had been playing with the creature for the past 20 minutes, and with each passing moment, Vale's embarrassment grew deeper. Would you like to know something interesting, Admiral? Walker said, pulling up some data on a screen. Your genetic modifications actually enhance traits we humans specifically bred into dogs over millennia. The increased intelligence, we started that process during domestication. The enhanced sensory abilities, dogs already had those. Even the social bonding capabilities, you accidentally made them stronger. Below, Joe had moved on to teaching the creature basic commands. To Vale's horror, the beast was already sitting on command, those augmented neural pathways eagerly learning to please its new human friend. But it's killed before, Vale protested weakly. On other worlds. Did those worlds have any experience with dogs? Walker asked. Or did they react with fear and aggression, triggering a defensive response? He paused thoughtfully. You know, treating something with kindness often works better than meeting it with force. Officer Reed, who had been quietly analyzing data, suddenly spoke up. Sir, I've been reviewing our combat footage. The creature, it never attacked unless threatened, and it always tried to subdue rather than kill, even when we specifically ordered termination. Vale's antenna drooped. You mean? Your ultimate weapon was trying to play with its targets, Linda said, not even trying to hide her amusement anymore. You essentially created a super-powered puppy and expected it to be a monster. Joe's voice came through the speaker again. Hey, up there, can I keep him? We've got a great connection, and I've already got a yard set up at home. Plus, look at this face. How can you say no to this face? The beast, hearing the excitement in Joe's voice, barked happily. The sound echoed through the facility, making several pieces of alien equipment rattle. Vale noticed that even that powerful bark seemed more playful than threatening. Actually, Walker said, that raises an interesting possibility. He turned to Vale. Admiral, you've created something remarkable here, just not in the way you intended. Have you considered the diplomatic potential? Vale looked up, confused. Diplomatic potential? Of course. Look how quickly your creation bonded with Joe. That's not just genetic engineering. That's 30,000 years of co-evolution between humans and dogs coming into play. You've inadvertently created a bridge between our species. Linda nodded enthusiastically. Think about it. Your people clearly have incredible genetic engineering capabilities. We have millennia of experience in animal companionship. Together, we could do amazing things. Down in the field, Joe had taught the creature to shake hands. The sight of his fearsome weapon politely offering its paw to a human would have seemed like a nightmare to Vale just hours ago. Now, somehow, it was becoming something else, a symbol of possibility. The public relations potential alone is tremendous, Walker added. Instead of being known as the empire that tries to conquer worlds, you could be the ones who help bring the joy of animal companionship to the galaxy. Vale watched as his weapon, his perfect predator, gently took a treat from Joe's hand. The creature's enhanced intelligence was obvious in its eyes, but instead of calculating killing blows, it was clearly figuring out how to earn more treats and belly rubs. You know, Vale said slowly, our scientists did create several variations of the design. Different sizes, different enhanced capabilities. He paused. Some of them are quite small. Walker's eyes lit up. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Perhaps, Vale said, beginning to see a new path forward. We could discuss a joint project, combining your experience with companion animals and our genetic engineering. Space puppies, Linda whispered excitedly. You're talking about making space puppies. Below, Joe had begun teaching the creature to play tug-of-war with a rope. The beast, using only a fraction of its enhanced strength, was clearly enjoying the game while being careful not to hurt its new friend. Vale watched, realizing that sometimes the greatest victories come from admitting defeat and finding something better in the process. In the main conference room of the human facility, Admiral Vale and his officers sat watching a presentation that made them question everything they thought they knew about humans. The screen showed ancient cave paintings, crude images of humans hunting alongside wolves. It began over 30,000 years ago. Professor Wilson explained, cycling through images. When most species would run from predators, we did something different. We saw potential partners. Vale leaned forward, fascinated despite himself. You approach apex predators, willingly. Better than that, Wilson grinned. We shared our food with them, our warmth, our shelters. The wolves that were friendly got more food, had more puppies, and slowly evolved alongside us. The presentation showed the gradual transformation through time. Wolves becoming early dogs, then breeding into hundreds of different shapes and sizes. Vale's scientific team was taking furious notes. But that's just the beginning, Wilson continued. Dogs became vital to our survival. They helped us hunt, protected our homes, watched our children. Some scientists think we might not have survived as a species without them. Officer Reed raised a hand. But the genetic samples we used, they weren't from your modern dogs. No, Wilson confirmed. Based on your data, you somehow obtained DNA from an ancient canine specimen, probably preserved in permafrost. Then you enhanced it, accidentally recreating and supercharging the very traits we spent millennia cultivating. The screen showed modern working dogs, police dogs, rescue dogs, therapy dogs. Vale's antenna twitched as he saw similarities to his weapon. Your creature's enhanced intelligence. We bred dogs to understand complex commands. The loyalty. We bred them to bond with humans. Even the physical capabilities. We bred different dogs for different jobs. And now, Linda added, entering the room with a tablet, we've finished analyzing your genetic modifications. You actually improved on nature in exactly the ways we would have, if we had your technology. Vale slumped in his chair. So our ultimate weapon is basically a very good boy with some impressive upgrades, Wilson chuckled. Speaking of which, the door opened, and Joe entered with the creature trotting happily beside him. The beast was now wearing what humans called a collar, a simple blue band with a name tag. Everyone, Joe announced proudly, meet Max. You named it? Vale asked incredulously. Of course. He's already learned it too. Watch, Max, come here. The creature, Max, immediately bounded over, tail wagging. Its enhanced muscles, designed for combat, were instead being used to give enthusiastic but gentle headbutts to everyone in reach. This is unprecedented, one of Vale's scientists muttered, watching Max respond perfectly to basic commands. The neural augmentations were supposed to enhance aggression, but they're actually improving trainability instead. Wilson nodded, because you built on a foundation we spent thousands of years developing. Dogs want to learn, want to please. You just made them better at it. Vale watched as Max demonstrated his learning capabilities, following complex commands after just one or two demonstrations. The creature's enhanced intelligence was obvious, but instead of calculating attack patterns, it was clearly processing the quickest way to earn praise and treats. There's more, Linda said, showing Vale her tablet. We've been monitoring Max's brain activity. The social bonding centers are off the charts. He's not just obeying commands, he's forming genuine emotional attachments. That's impossible, Vale protested. We engineered them to be weapons, not pets. You can't engineer out 30,000 years of evolution that easily, Wilson said gently. Dogs aren't just animals that live with humans. They're animals that evolved specifically to understand us, to love us, to work with us. You took that existing foundation and made it stronger. Max chose that moment to flop over, exposing his belly to Joe for rubs. His tail, enhanced with extra muscles for better combat balance, thumped against the floor with enough force to make the furniture shake. Vale looked at his creation, seeing it with new eyes. What they had intended as a weapon had instead become a bridge, a demonstration of humanity's most remarkable achievement, turning sworn enemies into loyal friends. Perhaps, Vale said slowly, watching Max's obvious joy at simply being with humans, we have much to learn from your species after all. The human smiled, and Max wagged his tail harder, as if agreeing that this was, indeed, a very good idea. The following weeks transformed the alien invasion fleet into something entirely different. The massive warships now hosted an unusual mix of military personnel and excited scientists from both species. On the main deck of Vale's flagship, temporary kennels house various versions of their enhanced creatures, each one now being studied in a new light. This one, Vale explained to General Walker, pointing to a smaller specimen, was engineered for stealth operations. Enhanced night vision, sound-dampening fur, reduced mass. He trailed off as the creature rolled over playfully in its enclosure. Walker grinned. Looks like you accidentally created the perfect apartment dog. All the enhanced senses, but quiet and compact for urban living. Across the deck, Joe was working with Max, demonstrating to a group of alien scientists how traditional dog training methods worked with their enhanced creation. Max's augmented intelligence meant he learned commands almost instantly, but his eagerness to please remained thoroughly dog-like. Sit, Joe commanded. Max sat. Roll over. Max rolled. Calculate the square root of 144. Max barked 12 times. The alien scientist scribbled notes frantically while Linda recorded everything on her tablet. The neural enhancements are actually working perfectly with traditional training methods, she observed. They're just not very useful for combat. Vale watched as Max performed increasingly complex tasks, always looking to Joe for approval after each one. The creature's enhanced strength and intelligence, meant for destruction, instead made him an incredibly capable helper. We've been thinking, Walker said, showing Vale some proposals on a screen. Your genetic engineering combined with our experience in animal companionship could lead to something revolutionary. Imagine companion animals perfectly adapted for different environments, different needs. The screen showed various potential applications: enhanced therapy dogs with even greater emotional sensitivity, search and rescue dogs with improved survival capabilities, assistance dogs with augmented problem-solving abilities. You want to mass-produce them? Vale asked, surprised. Not exactly, Walker explained. We're thinking more along the lines of a joint program, carefully bred, specially trained. A symbol of cooperation between our species. In another part of the ship, alien children from the crew families had been allowed to visit. They watched in amazement as some of the smaller enhanced dogs performed tricks. The animals, despite their augmentations, showed the same gentle patience with children that Earth dogs had demonstrated for millennia. It's quite remarkable, Reed said, reviewing data with Linda. Every modification we made to make them better weapons actually made them better companions. The enhanced strength. Perfect for rescue work. Improved problem solving. Ideal for assistance dogs. Even the combat tactical processing. It just helps them understand complex commands better. Vale watched as one of his junior officers cautiously pet a smaller specimen. The officer's antenna, usually rigid with military discipline, relaxed as the dog leaned into the touch. It was the first time Vale had seen any of his species look so peaceful. There's something else to consider, Walker added. Dogs helped humanity become what we are. They were our first allies, our first step toward understanding. We could form bonds with other species. Maybe they can do the same for your people." As if to emphasize the point, Max trotted over and sat between them, looking up with his enhanced eyes that could track movement in near-total darkness, but were currently just begging for treats. "Your weapon," Walker said softly, "might end up being the greatest peacemaker the galaxy has ever seen." Vale reached down hesitantly and patted Max's head. The dog's tail wagged, thumping against the deck with enough force to make nearby equipment rattle. Despite all their genetic modifications, despite all their attempts to create the perfect predator, they had failed to override one simple thing: a dog's capacity for love. "Perhaps," Vale said, watching his crew increasingly interact with the dogs, their usual military stiffness melting away, "this is the kind of victory we actually needed." Around them, the warship that had arrived to conquer Earth was slowly being transformed. Where there had been weapon stations, there were now training areas. Where there had been combat briefing rooms, there were now research centers studying the bond between humans and dogs. The invasion fleet was becoming something new, a bridge between species, built on the foundation of humanity's first and most successful alliance. 1 year after the failed invasion, the scene at the Interspecies Cooperation Center was far different from what anyone might have expected. The massive facility, built from a converted alien warship, now housed the Joint Human-Alien-Animal Partnership Program. Admiral Vale, wearing what humans called casual Friday attire, walked through the main training area with General Walker. Max trotted between them, his enhanced sensors now used to monitor the stress levels of new animal-alien pairs. "The latest batch of cadets is doing well," Walker commented, gesturing to where alien officers were learning to work with their assigned companions. "Much better than the first group." Vale nodded, watching an alien child cautiously offering treats to a small enhanced puppy. "It's still strange, seeing my people so relaxed. A year ago, I would have considered it a security risk." "Speaking of security," Walker said, pulling up a holographic report, "the first graduating class of search and rescue teams has already saved over 300 lives across 5 planets. Turns out those combat enhancements work perfectly for finding survivors in disaster zones." They passed through the research wing, where human and alien scientists worked side by side. The genetic engineering labs, once dedicated to creating weapons, now focused on developing companions suited for different environments and needs. The Mars Colony program is particularly interesting, a human scientist explained to her alien colleagues. "We've managed to adapt the environmental resistance enhancements for low-gravity conditions. The colonists' children will be able to have pets even in the sealed habitats." In another section, therapy dogs with enhanced empathy sensors worked with alien veterans, helping them process the trauma of past conflicts. The sight of former warrior caste members finding peace through animal companionship had become increasingly common. "Did you see the latest diplomatic reports?" Walker asked, showing Vale another document. 3 more species have requested to join the program. Apparently, word is spreading about the benefits of animal companions. Vale's antenna twitched in amusement. "So our failed invasion is becoming a galactic peace initiative. The High Command still isn't sure whether to be impressed or embarrassed." They reached the Puppy Development Center, where the next generation of enhanced dogs was being raised. Each puppy combined the best of both worlds: alien genetic engineering and thousands of years of human-dog coevolution. "Watch this," one of the trainers called out. She gave a complex series of commands, and the puppies responded with perfect coordination, their enhanced intelligence allowing them to understand concepts that would have taken months to teach normal dogs. But despite their augmentations, they were still unmistakably puppies, playing, tumbling, and seeking attention from anyone who came near. Their enhanced strength was used for more enthusiastic tail wagging, their tactical processors dedicated to figuring out the best way to hit belly rubs. "You know," Vale said, watching an alien family being matched with their new companion, "we came here looking for weakness. Instead, we found something we didn't even know we were missing." Max barked in agreement, his enhanced vocal cords making the sound echo through the facility. Around them, other dogs, regular and enhanced, joined in, creating an impromptu chorus that made everyone smile. The final area they visited was the memorial wall, where pictures showed the history of human-dog partnerships alongside the new human-alien-dog relationships being formed. Ancient cave paintings next to modern photographs, telling the story of how humanity's first alliance was helping to forge new ones across the stars. The next phase of the program starts next month, Walker reminded Vale. Are you ready to be an instructor? Vale looked down at his uniform, now featuring both his military rank and a training certification. Teaching my people how to make friends instead of enemies. It's not what I expected to be doing with my career, but he trailed off as Max nudged his hand, the dog's enhanced sensors picking up his contemplative mood. Vale scratched behind Max's ears, marveling at how natural the gesture had become. But it feels right, he finished. Outside the facility's windows, Earth's sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the training fields where humans and aliens worked together with their four-legged companions. What had begun as an invasion had transformed into something far more powerful, a reminder that sometimes the strongest bonds are formed not through force, but through friendship. And Max, the weapon that became a bridge between worlds, wagged his tail, knowing in his enhanced but still very dog-like brain that everything had worked out exactly as it should.